Captain America Civil War is great, an emotional, somber superhero movie that still finds time to be funny and pimp slap Batman and Superman even harder than Doomsday did. But we don't have any more time, let's crack straight into it. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, here are 50 references, in-jokes and Easter eggs from Captain America Civil War. One of Bucky's random trigger words is Homecoming, a possible reference to Homecoming, Spider-Man's first MCU solo outing. The Hydra agent who wakes up Bucky in the prologue and is later unconvincingly drowned by Zemo is Vasily Karpov, who in the comics is the man behind the Winter Soldier's creation. Falcon now has Red Wing, here a remote control robot, in the comics, and this is a big shocker, an actual Falcon. The guy who becomes Thanos in the Avengers mid-credits scene, Damien Poitier, gets a quick cameo as a mercenary. Wanda accidentally letting Crossbones explode in Lagos is a homage to how the New Warriors started the Civil War in the comics with a big explosion in Stamford. Jim Rash plays another Dean because the Russos need that Community reference. Senator Ross asks Cap if he knows where the Hulk and Thor are, alluding to the end of Age of Ultron and hinting towards their team up in Thor Ragnarok. Sharon Carter's eulogy basically summing up Captain America's entire motivation from the Civil War comics, pondering on humanity's destruction and turning up at inopportune moments. Vision, you Dr. Manhattan cosplayer. So many Spider-Man costume references. The early version of Spidey's costume hung up in his loft space is similar to his Ultimate Spider-Man version. His second suit is reminiscent of Steve Ditko's early artwork, with elements taken from John Romita's, with adjustable shutters on his eyes as a wink to how artists were never able to be consistent with how big his eyes were, while being made by Iron Man is a nod to the Iron Spider suit. We're all sick of Spider-Man's origin stories, so in Civil War, Peter Parker starts telling it only for Tony Stark to interrupt him. Also, Spider-Man's identity is effectively unmasked in his very first scene. Revealing his own identity also happens in the Civil War comics. He doesn't get an origin story, but he does get to tell an abridged version of Uncle Ben's death, though, teaching us that with great power comes great responsibility. Gets me every time. Bucky's cell in Germany has D23 on it, a reference to the Disney fan group. That aggressive female guarding T'Challa, she's either Black Panther's sister Shuri or an elite assassin in the comics called Dora. After using up every armor idea in Iron Man 3, Tony Stark finally uses the bleeding edge armor. Nice. Speaking of those armors, the film uses that as an excuse for why Gwyneth Paltrow hasn't been seen in a few years. Vision loves Wanda. Vision loves Wanda. Tony says he imagines Jarvis's replacement Friday as a redhead, a nod to her hologram look in the comics. Although it can never happen because of movie rights, here's a couple of nods to House of M, the UN plot to keep Wanda pacified here using Vision, and Hawkeye's costume is just like it is in that comic, mask aside. The idea of multiple Winter Soldiers goes right back to the return of Bucky Barnes and Ed Brubaker's run on Captain America, while the prospect of Zemo creating his own super soldier team seems to be alluding to his Masters of Evil thing, but of course that was all a big bait and switch. Speaking of which, in the comics, Zemo was born in Leipzig, the setting for that awesome airport sequence. Speaking of, Giant Man is in the film and he's brought down by Spidey using a tactic from a certain other Disney-owned property. Of course, if Star Wars is a bit too lowbrow for you, and how dare you, Tony later calls Bucky the Manchurian Candidate.
I understood that reference.
The Raft is a famous Marvel prison that appeared for the first time here. It appeared first time in the comics in Alias 26, a Jessica Jones comic, although its design is similar to another Marvel super prison, The Vault. Quite a few famous comic panels are recreated. Ant-Man riding Hawkeye's arrow from the cover of Avengers 223, Iron Man and Cap beams on S.H.I.E.L.D. is straight from the cover art to a Civil War issue, and Spider-Man holding up an airplane evokes famous panels of either him holding up the Daily Bugle in Peter Parker's Spider-Man 98, or holding up rubble in Amazing Spider-Man 33. Director Anthony Russo cameos as the guy Zemo kills in the bathtub. Good for him. Russo Sprog Sophia also has a cameo as a teenage girl. Bucky and Cap reminisce about one of Mr. Barnes' former gals, Dot, a possible nod to Agent Carter antagonist Dottie Underwood. One of the biggest influences on the Russos was Seven? Yep, that scene in the Hydra base where Zemo reveals his true plan. That's a parallel of John Doe's master plan. What's in the box? What's on the video? Bucky killed Tony's parents and Steve knew about it. Ouch. Wait, how did Steve know? Well, he saw it in the Winter Soldier, I guess. That big Star Wars in-joke of a character losing their arm continues, this time with it being Bucky. Again. Bucky also uses Cap's shield. Again, Cap's line, "I can do this all day," which is delivered differently to in the trailers, is a nice callback to when we were first introduced to a feisty Steve Rogers way back in the first Avenger.
Sometimes I think you like getting punched.
Stan Lee cameos at the end as a FedEx worker, making a pretty depressing scene a bit lighter. Civil War may be incredibly inaccurate to the comic, where was my Thor robot clone, damn it? But it does end on a very similar note, with the Avengers split in two. There's Tony's official gang and Steve's underground lot. Also, with no costume and throwing away his shield, it looks like Steve Rogers has turned his back on Captain America, similar to the Nomad arc from the 80s comics. The mid-credits scene is set in Wakanda, which we'll visit properly in 2018, and the post-credits scene tells us, Bond-style, Spider-Man will return, complete with a very 60s spider signal. And that's 50! Oh my goodness. Now go see Captain America Civil War, it really is that good. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.